reflections. So, are you a Bodhisattva? Really interesting question. So, I don't really promote any religion per se, but I do really love ancient culture, ancient religions, anything old, and philosophy. So, I really got into a lot of Eastern philosophy recently, and that's why I decided to go to India recently. For the past 3 years, I have been just really in seclusion, trying to elevate my vibration, my consciousness, and to overall be a better person, because before I was really fucked up. I was not a very nice person. I will be the first to admit that, and I wasn't really centered and focused on myself and the reflections around me and what my actions were doing and how my vibration was and where I was coming from. And this is a YouTube video for encouragement, and this is to all the bodhisattvas out there that are on their journey, because we are all sentient beings, and this video is coming out of love and a lot of encouragement. And I know that all of you guys out there can do this all together. It's a collective experience. So I decided to take a little bit of a break from everybody because I realized that I could not find myself with all of the distractions out there. And traditionally, the Bodhisattva goes into isolation and reflection, and they take a little bit of time off of society. So yeah, the beginning of my journey, I was a very sad, depressed, angry girl. And the last thing that I had to accomplish and to manage was my anger and my fear. And you know, as enlightened beings, as bodhisattvas, as Buddhas, as pure consciousness, we are always evolving, and if we are stagnant, then we're really not doing anything healthy. So yeah, with that being said, I am going to tell you what exactly a bodhisattva is. So in Mahayana Buddhism, a bodhisattva is Sanskrit for anyone who has generated, out of great compassion, has generated bodhisattva. And bodhisattva is spontaneous Buddhahood or enlightenment. And this is really interesting. When you go into your consciousness and you reach Buddhahood, you realize that you have a choice. You can either go and become a Buddha and go into Source, or you can stay and help humanity, and that will be your purpose. And that's why a lot of bodhisattvas decide to stay and not dissolve into the super consciousness. So yeah, that should explain what a bodhisattva is. And if you are going to ask yourself, am I one? As a meditator, as a vegan, as an awake conscious being, as a psychedelic user, as a shaman, as, just a person, am I on my way to enlightenment? And what are we doing here? Because it doesn't seem like it's anything new. In fact, it seems very ancient. So yeah, there are 3 types of bodhisattva. The first is the king. And the king is basically somebody that wants immediate enlightenment and Buddhahood, and they are the first to leave. The second is the boatman. And the boatman is the one that wants to experience Buddhahood with the rest of the sentient beings. And the third is the shepherd. And the shepherd is the sentient being that wants to be one of the final beings to evolve and to become Buddha, because they are waiting for the rest of the sentient beings to raise their vibration level. So yeah, these are the 3 different bodhisattvas, and supposedly in Niminga school of thought, the most important bodhisattva is the shepherd, because he is so loving and so compassionate to the rest of humanity and all sentient beings, and he decides to wait for everybody to cross over before he does. So, yeah, that is a lot of information, I know, but there's more. So, there are 5 paths to Buddhahood, and that is accumulation, preparation, insight, meditation, and no more learning. Now, this one was really, really interesting to me because I just discovered the power of no thought. And it's a very interesting way to be, because you are all the chatter in your mind completely ceases. So that's really amazing, and it's a great experience, especially for a lot of people that are constantly in their head and constantly having conversations with themselves. I used to be one of these people, and I was always thinking of different scenarios, and I was always, that inner chatter was basically taking over everything. And because of my work with entheogens and meditation and crystals, this is one of my favorite crystals that I have. It's lapis lazuli. Another one is citrine and Herkimer diamond, which I love. I'm a huge collector of crystals, and I feel that there are a lot of higher vibrational properties in them, and I'm going to do a video on that separately. But all of these things are tools to attain certain levels of understanding and knowing. The 10 grounds to Buddhahood is the great joy. The great joy is when you're celebrating everybody, and you're looking at everything in a state of perfection. The third is stainless, and that is when you are free from all immorality. The third is luminous, and this is when the Bodhisattva becomes a luminous being, because it's in contact with divine source. The fourth is radiance, and again, the Bodhisattva becomes very radiant because he is just exuding energy from source and from the divine. The third is very difficult to train, and this is when other sentient beings decide to act in a negative way, and we judge the Bodhisattva and say not so nice things. And this is when meditation comes in, the path of meditation. And this is when the Bodhisattva is so unoffended that he doesn't even get bothered or even bothered to respond. So the sixth is obviously transcendent, and this speaks for itself. The seventh is gone afar, and this is when the Bodhisattva helps others and is in service to others. The eighth is immovable, and this is when a sentient being can pick where they're going to be born again. The ninth is good discriminating wisdom, and this is when they make really good choices because they are acting in a very high vibrational frequency, and that is love. The 10th is the cloud of Dharma, and this is when the sentient being acting out of supreme law. And when a sentient being follows all of these 5 paths and 10 grounds, it reaches Buddhahood. Now, a bodhisattva is somebody that goes so deep in one's consciousness that they finally reach enlightenment, and their whole entire perspective of reality completely dissolves. Basically, liberation is time to go home, time to die. And to a lot of people, this is very scary. But for the bodhisattva, they realize they have 2 options. The reason why one would not be liberated and go back into oneness is because they feel deep compassion for their fellow sentient beings, and they decide that they need to help them out. When a bodhisattva comes back to reality, they realize that there's no really good cause for them to be in seclusion anymore. And because of that, a bodhisattva is motivated to go back into society and help other beings because they realize that their wisdom is not really going to a good cause, and there's really no reason to be here if you are not inspiring others to awaken the true essence of themselves and the true Buddha within them. So yeah, really interesting stuff. I've become very, very obsessed with ancient stuff. I really am into a lot of things that I never was. You know, I didn't have hobbies because I decided to be a robot and do, you know, very mindless things. And the closer I got to my true self, the more I remembered myself and the more I started really living how I used to when I was a child. And when I was a child, I was really into botany. I was really into planting and flowers. I was a vegetarian when I was a kid. It was really hard for my parents to try to make me eat meat. So yeah, I was always naturally very into crystals. I was always into crystals. And when you are in alignment with yourself, you're just closer to your child self. So yeah, are you guys bodhisattvas? I'm pretty sure that you are. Anyway, I hope that this video helped. Bye, reflections.